Welcome to Avoidant Decoded, where we uncover the hidden psychology behind emotions, attachment, and human behavior. Before we begin today's powerful discussion on how an avoidant secretly shows that you are different from everyone else, make sure to join our membership and become part of a community dedicated to understanding deeper emotional patterns. Let's explore the signs that reveal what words often fail to express. Most people misunderstand avoidance because they only see the distance, not the battle happening behind it. But when an avoidant sees you as different from everyone else, their behavior starts changing in ways they cannot easily hide. The silence, the hesitation, and the emotional walls begin telling a deeper story, because the person who makes them feel safe enough to open up becomes the person they fear losing the most. The biggest mistake people make with avoidance is thinking silence means they do not care. But sometimes the person who appears the most distant is the person fighting the strongest emotional battle inside. And when you become different from everyone else, the signs are not always loud. They are hidden in the moments where their defenses begin to disappear. Today, you're going to discover the subtle psychological signals that reveal when an avoidant no longer sees you as just another person in their life. Because when someone truly stands out, their entire pattern begins to shift. If this perspective is helping you understand avoidant behavior on a deeper level, take a moment to subscribe and become part of this community. More psychology insights like this are created to help you recognize patterns, understand emotions, and build healthier connections. Now, one of the most overlooked signs that you are different is when an avoidant starts returning emotionally after creating distance. This is where many people become confused. They think, if they cared, why did they pull away? But distance is not always rejection. Sometimes distance is how an avoidant processes emotions that feel overwhelming. When someone matters, the intensity of the connection can activate old protective habits. They may step back, not because the person is unimportant, but because the person has become important enough to challenge their emotional comfort zone. The difference is what happens after the distance. Someone who feels nothing usually disconnects completely. But when someone is different, the connection often remains. They find reasons to reconnect, they check in. They slowly reopen communication. They look for ways to maintain the bond while still managing their fears. This is the complicated reality of avoidant attachment. The same person who fears closeness may also deeply desire it. The same person who creates distance may also fear losing someone meaningful. And the person who understands this does not measure love only by emotional intensity. They observe patterns, they notice growth, they recognize moments when someone who normally hides begins choosing connection. Because real emotional change is rarely dramatic. It happens quietly. It happens when someone who usually says, "I can handle everything alone," begins allowing another person to stand beside them. It happens when someone who normally keeps every feeling locked away starts revealing pieces of their inner world. And it happens when they realize that being close to you does not feel like losing themselves. It feels like finally being understood. The truth is, being different to an avoidant is not about being perfect. It is not about trying harder than everyone else or proving your value. It is about creating a connection where authenticity feels safer than avoidance. Because the person who truly stands out is often the person who does not force their way through the walls. They become the reason those walls no longer feel necessary. Avoidant individuals often communicate their deepest feelings in ways that are easy to miss because their emotional language is usually different from what many people expect. When someone is important to them, they may not immediately express it through dramatic words, constant reassurance, or obvious displays of affection. Instead, their feelings often appear through subtle changes in their behavior because actions can feel safer than openly exposing their emotions. For someone with avoidant tendencies, expressing vulnerability can feel uncomfortable. They may have learned throughout life that depending on others creates uncertainty, or that showing too much emotion can lead to disappointment. Because of this, they often develop protective habits such as staying independent, controlling their reactions, or keeping their deeper feelings private. However, when they encounter someone who feels emotionally significant, those protective patterns can begin to shift. The signs are usually hidden in small moments. They may start making more effort to stay connected, even if they do not openly admit they miss someone. They may check in after creating distance, remember important details from conversations, or find quiet ways to show support. These actions may seem ordinary from the outside, but for someone who usually protects their emotional space, these choices can represent a meaningful change. An avoidant person may also show that someone is different by allowing that person to see parts of themselves that they normally hide. Sharing personal thoughts, discussing fears, admitting uncertainty, or revealing past experiences requires a level of trust that they do not easily give. Their willingness to step outside their comfort zone can be a stronger indicator of emotional connection than words alone. The key is understanding that avoidant behavior is often influenced by emotional protection rather than a lack of feeling. A person may deeply value someone while still struggling with how to express that attachment. Their internal world may contain strong emotions, but their external behavior may appear controlled or distant. When an avoidant begins showing consistency, trust, and vulnerability, it often means the relationship has reached a different level of importance. They are not simply reacting in the moment, they are making a conscious choice to lower their defenses and allow another person closer. The greatest sign that you are different is not always what they say, but the emotional risks they are willing to take because you matter to them. For someone with avoidant tendencies, emotional access is not something they give easily. They often have strong internal boundaries because closeness can feel overwhelming or uncertain. They may enjoy connection, but at the same time they can fear losing their independence, being judged, or becoming too emotionally dependent on another person. This creates a natural protective system where they carefully decide who is allowed to see their deeper thoughts, fears, and emotions. When an avoidant begins allowing someone closer, it usually happens because that person creates a feeling of emotional safety. Safety does not mean someone is constantly reassuring them or trying to remove every fear. Instead, it means they feel accepted without pressure. They feel they can be themselves without needing to perform, hide, or constantly defend their emotions. One of the strongest indicators that someone has become different is when an avoidant starts revealing parts of their inner world that they normally keep private. They may talk about personal struggles, childhood experiences, insecurities, dreams, or emotions they usually avoid discussing. These conversations require a level of trust because they are allowing another person to see beyond the surface image they present to the world. For many avoidant individuals, vulnerability can feel like giving someone the ability to hurt them. This is why they often protect their emotions until they believe the connection is stable and trustworthy. When they finally open up, it is not just about sharing information, it represents a willingness to be seen and accepted. Another sign is when they begin seeking emotional support instead of handling everything alone. Someone with avoidant patterns may normally believe they must solve problems independently. However, when they value a person deeply, they may slowly start involving them in their thoughts and decisions. They may ask for opinions, share frustrations, or simply allow that person to be present during difficult moments. This change does not always happen quickly. Avoidant individuals often move carefully because their emotional system is designed to protect them from feeling exposed. But every moment of openness is a step away from their usual defenses and toward deeper connection. The person who becomes important is often the one who does not force emotional closeness, but creates an environment where closeness feels natural. When an avoidant realizes that vulnerability does not lead to judgment, control, or rejection, they begin to lower their defenses. And when they allow someone to enter the parts of themselves they usually keep hidden, that person has become more than just another connection. They have become someone who feels safe enough to be trusted. Avoidant individuals often build emotional defenses to protect themselves from feeling overwhelmed, rejected, or dependent on others. These defenses can appear as emotional distance, avoiding difficult conversations, needing excessive personal space, or minimizing their own feelings. To them, these behaviors are not always a sign that they do not care. Often, they are strategies developed to maintain a sense of control and emotional safety. However, when someone becomes truly meaningful to them, these protective patterns can begin to change. The walls they have built around themselves may start to weaken, not because they suddenly become a completely different person, but because they begin to feel that this connection is worth the risk. The same person who once avoided emotional conversations may start making small efforts to communicate more openly. The same person who usually creates distance may begin finding reasons to stay connected. One of the clearest signs that their defenses are changing is when they become more emotionally available. They may start expressing thoughts they usually keep hidden, acknowledge their feelings instead of ignoring them, or become more willing to discuss problems rather than avoiding them. These changes may appear small, but for someone who is used to protecting their emotions, they represent significant progress. Another important shift happens in how they respond to closeness. Normally, too much emotional intensity can trigger discomfort, causing them to retreat or create distance. But when they feel a genuine connection with someone, they may begin tolerating closeness instead of automatically escaping from it. They start learning that intimacy does not always mean losing their freedom or being controlled. An avoidant person may also become more intentional with their actions. Instead of only focusing on their own needs and comfort, they begin considering how their choices affect the other person. They may make compromises, show more consistency, and put effort into maintaining the relationship. These behaviors reveal that the connection has moved beyond casual interest and has gained emotional importance. The transformation is often gradual because changing emotional patterns requires trust and time. An avoidant does not usually lower their defenses because someone demands it. They lower them when they experience a relationship where they feel accepted, respected, and understood. When someone becomes important enough, the avoidant mind begins to recognize that protecting themselves from emotional risk may also mean losing something valuable. The person who stands out is the one who inspires them to move beyond their old patterns and discover that true connection can feel safe rather than threatening. One of the most overlooked ways an avoidant person shows that someone is different is through the attention they give. While they may not always express emotions openly, their mind often reveals what matters through what they remember and what they continue to notice. When someone becomes emotionally significant, that person starts occupying a different place in their thoughts, and this often appears through small details that they quietly hold on to. Avoidant individuals are often seen as detached or emotionally distant, but distance does not mean they are unaware. Many people with avoidant patterns observe more than they express. They may notice changes in someone's mood, remember specific conversations, recall personal preferences, or pay attention to small things that others might overlook. The reason these details matter is because attention is connected to emotional investment. People naturally focus more on things and people that carry meaning in their lives. When an avoidant remembers something small that was mentioned weeks or months earlier, it can reveal that the interaction had a deeper impact than they showed at the time. They may remember a favorite song, an important event, a personal goal, a stressful situation, or even a simple comment made during a conversation. These moments show that the person was not just listening. They were emotionally processing and storing that information. For someone who usually protects their emotional energy, giving consistent attention can be a meaningful action. Avoidants often value independence and may avoid behaviors that feel emotionally demanding. However, when they begin investing mental space into another person, it can indicate that the connection has become important to them. Another sign is when they begin adapting their behavior based on what they have learned about someone. They may communicate in a way that feels more comfortable for the other person, offer support during difficult moments, or make choices that show consideration. These actions may not come with dramatic expressions of affection, but they demonstrate awareness and care. The important thing to understand is that emotional investment does not always look the same for everyone. Some people express attachment through words, while others reveal it through consistency, observation, and quiet effort. An avoidant person may struggle to say exactly how much someone means to them, but their attention can reveal the emotional importance they place on that connection. When someone becomes different from everyone else, they often become someone the avoidant cannot simply overlook. The small details they remember, the moments they notice, and the effort they quietly make are signs that this person has moved beyond ordinary interaction and has created a meaningful place in their emotional world. One of the most complex parts of avoidant behavior is the internal conflict between wanting emotional connection and wanting to protect themselves from vulnerability. An avoidant person may genuinely desire closeness, affection, and understanding, but at the same time, deeper emotional attachment can activate fears that make them feel exposed or uncertain. This creates a powerful inner struggle where one part of them moves toward connection, while another part tries to maintain distance. When someone becomes truly important to an avoidant, this conflict often becomes stronger because the emotional risk feels greater. With casual connections, they may not experience the same level of fear because there is less vulnerability involved. But when they meet someone who makes them feel understood, accepted, or emotionally connected, they may begin confronting feelings they usually keep controlled. This is why avoidant behavior can sometimes appear confusing. They may show signs of caring and then suddenly become distant. They may want to spend time with someone but also need space afterward. They may open up during one moment and then become quiet when they realize they have revealed something personal. These actions are not always a reflection of a lack of interest. They can be a reflection of their struggle between emotional desire and self-protection. The avoidant mind often associates closeness with possible danger. This does not mean the person sees love or connection as negative, but their past experiences may have taught them that depending on others can lead to disappointment, rejection, or loss of control. Because of this, emotional intimacy can bring both comfort and anxiety at the same time. When an avoidant starts recognizing this pattern, their behavior may slowly change. They may begin learning that closeness does not have to mean losing independence. They may understand that sharing emotions does not make them weak, and that allowing someone closer does not automatically lead to pain. This process requires trust, patience, and a feeling of emotional safety. The person who becomes different is often the one who does not create more pressure during this internal battle. Instead of demanding constant reassurance or forcing emotional conversations, they create space while maintaining a healthy connection. This allows the avoidant person to experience closeness without feeling trapped. The most meaningful sign is when an avoidant chooses connection despite their fears. When they move towards someone even while feeling uncomfortable, they are showing that the relationship has become important enough to challenge their old protective habits. The conflict between wanting closeness and wanting distance reveals something powerful. The person matters enough to make them question the defenses they once depended on. The person who becomes truly different to an avoidant is often the one who creates a unique emotional experience where they feel both understood and free. Many avoidant individuals have a strong need for independence because they associate emotional closeness with pressure, expectations, or the fear of losing themselves. When they meet someone who respects their individuality while still offering genuine connection, it can create a feeling that is rare and deeply meaningful. For an avoidant, feeling understood is not just about someone knowing their words or actions. It is about someone recognizing the emotions behind their behavior. Many people may judge distance as rejection or silence as a lack of care, but someone who understands avoidant patterns can see that these behaviors may come from self-protection rather than a lack of emotion. This feeling of being accepted without constant explanation can create a powerful sense of safety. Another important factor is that avoidant individuals often fear being controlled or emotionally overwhelmed. When someone tries to force closeness, demand answers, or constantly seek reassurance, it can activate their desire to create distance. However, when someone maintains their own confidence, respects boundaries, and allows connection to develop naturally, the avoidant person may begin feeling that closeness does not have to threaten their freedom. The person who stands out is often the one who does not try to change them, but inspires them to grow. They provide support without becoming dependent, care without losing themselves, and understanding without accepting unhealthy behavior. This balance can feel different from past experiences because it creates a relationship where both people can exist as individuals while still being emotionally connected. Over time, this kind of connection can challenge the avoidant's old beliefs about relationships. They may begin realizing that emotional intimacy does not always lead to disappointment or loss of independence. They may discover that being close to someone can actually bring comfort, stability, and personal growth. The strongest sign that someone is different is when an avoidant begins lowering their emotional defenses naturally. They may start communicating more openly, showing more consistency, and allowing another person to become part of their world. These changes happen because they no longer see the connection as something that threatens their identity. Instead, they begin seeing it as something that enhances their life. Being different to an avoidant is not about being perfect or having the ability to fix their fears. It is about creating a connection where they feel safe enough to be authentic. When someone makes an avoidant feel both accepted and independent, they become more than just another person in their life. They become someone associated with trust, comfort, and emotional safety. The truth is, an avoidant does not show you that you are different through perfect words or dramatic promises, but through the walls they slowly choose to lower. When someone becomes important, their silence changes, their defenses soften, and their actions begin revealing what their fears try to hide. The rare connection is the one where they feel safe enough to stop running and finally allow themselves to be seen. Because when you become the person they trust with their hidden world, you are no longer just another person in their life. You become someone they never expected to find.